Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney.
And I'm MK.
And how are you?
I am so tired.
Heard.
But if you listened to this week's Sci-Fi Sunday episode all the way to the end, you'll know that I got really excited to share something with Courtney and then realized that for sure we're running out of time on that episode. And that is that Dan and I have started planning our honeymoon. And we are going for somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 weeks.
You agreed?
He didn't agree, but then he kept agreeing to things. And then I explained to him that all the things that we said we were doing were going to be a minimum of 3 weeks. And then he said that can't be true and started to map it out himself and realized that I do in fact know how to do math. And so we will be going for 3 weeks.
Exciting.
Yeah. So we're going to Barcelona, and Paris and London and Edinburgh, and then we're going out into the Scottish Highlands because we are going on a Highland cow safari.
That sounds so fun. That sounds so fun.
But we are also going to Belgium because there is a zoo outside of Brussels that is the largest zoo in Europe. It is so big that you can't see the whole zoo in one day.
Love that.
And they have a resort on property where you stay in these hotel suites that have zoo viewing windows in the hotel room. And
I love it.
They only have it for specific animals, and they're for animals that are naturally nocturnal activity animals, like wolves and tigers and penguins and animals that would be active at night anyway. So like it's not like they're like forcing animals to be awake.
Yeah.
And obviously
I want the penguin room.
we talked about the penguin room, but I think we're gonna do a tiger room.
I want the penguins. I'll go stay in the penguin room.
Okay, perfect. And also I'm fascinated by this zoo because one of the things that they have in one of their sections is a bunch of animals that I don't consider zoo animals because I always forgot that we have different animals in America than in other places in the world, because they have fucking raccoons in their zoo as if that's like an exhibit. And I was like, I don't think you understand. I once punched a raccoon. Like, oh, we're not
right. That is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my whole life.
But like the zoo is massive.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I messed up my headphones and I didn't hear you. Now I hear you again.
Okay. It was like, no, but so the zoo is massive and they have like guided tours and they have like keeper for a day experiences where you can like feed animals, and they have all of this stuff, and they have a hotel in the zoo where you can sleep with the animals. And Dan just like accidentally found it on an Instagram reel one day, and now we're basically building our entire honeymoon around being able to go to Brussels so I can go to the zoo. No, but like
I love that.
I mean, the thing is, we're going to some things that he wants to do, and obviously we're like planning it together. But like we're going to Disneyland Paris, this zoo, and a Highland cattle safari. So let's be honest, this trip is not about us, it's about me.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Definitely is.
But he knew what he signed up for.
That is also 100% true.
Yeah, so we can't even remotely start trying to book or plan the honeymoon because it's so far out that flights don't exist for those
Don't exist,
days.
yeah.
So we also have no real idea how to price compare or anything like that, or figure things out because we're a little too far out from that. And
because you're gonna do like next summer, right?
Yeah. So, and we should probably finish paying for the wedding.
Sure, yeah, that's step one. Step one is having the wedding and getting married.
Yeah. But so like I'm tired, everything sucks. I'm drained all the time. So sometimes we just plan the honeymoon because it's the only thing that he'll be like, "How are you feeling? Where's your brain? Do you want to watch TV or do you want to plan the honeymoon?" And I'm like, "Thank you for understanding that this is what I need to
These are the
like."
only options. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I totally feel that.
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm
The pitch at
tired.
which you said that was not fine.
I'm exhausted. I've got a lot going on. This next month's gonna be chaotic for me and super stressful, and it's fine. Um, so I've been finding ways to pretend like it's not that way. One of those being TV. Speaking of, so I'm on my parents' Netflix, but I got kicked off in like
Oh,
January. I
because of
know, real bummer.
the house thing?
Yeah, the whole house
Yeah.
thing. So like now when I travel, I watch Netflix because you can watch it traveling, you just can't stay still too long and watch it.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, what's on the Netflix that I haven't seen? And I started Lincoln Lawyer. And that was probably the best and worst decision I've ever made in my life because
Yeah.
if you haven't seen it, it is
I'm not.
so good. I never
Okay.
watched the movie. I've heard it's good too, the one with Matthew McConaughey, but that one came out ages ago.
Yeah.
Um, the show is so good. I have finished the 2 seasons, and mind you, I worked 40 hours of overtime last week, including Saturday, Sunday, and I started the show on Tuesday of last week.
I'm still
Um,
in 2020 on my YouTube rewatch.
I
We are
know.
not the same.
We're not the same, but I've been avoiding life. And so like
Yeah.
I can watch I watched on my laptop at the airport, and then I watched it like in the like 73 hours of Uber I was in yesterday to get to Sadie and get home.
Yeah.
And so I finished it on my laptop today because it still thinks I'm traveling. Um so that was, and so now because we all know that I go in too hard when I discover something new that I like.
Yeah.
I learned that it's a Michael Connelly series. And so now I've decided I'm ready to commit to reading all of Michael Connelly's series, which starts with the Bosch series, which I haven't seen the show for Bosch,
Okay.
but it is the first series. So I'm going to start there, and then they all kind of like overlap at some point. It's like the Marvel universe, but the Michael Connelly universe. And if this doesn't sound like the most me avoiding everything in life thing, I don't know what does. But I am super excited about it. I'm very excited to start my journey that I decided today I'm starting. So we'll see. I have to wait for the library to give me the first book though, because it's not on Kindle Unlimited. Um, but I also want to start reading again more because I'm reading. I read like one book in the past month and a half, which is not like me. So
Um,
um, yeah. So I'm ready to start reading again. Um, I have to figure out where I'm going to live in a month. So if anyone has a place in New York that's not $8 million a month, let me know. I'll live there.
yeah.
I have a dog. But yeah, so it's just one thing after another, and I'm moving on to the next thing after Folk Alliance is now this,
Right.
and then I'm supposed to go to LA in 2 weeks. So we'll see. We'll see how everything goes, but it's fine.
Right.
Everything's fine. So because I'm clearly in a very healthy and comfortable headspace, please help enlighten me a little bit with some spirituality.
Perfect. This quote says, "Life is full of challenges, but I always have the three P's: passion, patience, and persistence. The fourth P is pizza."
Um, Fun you say that because I am not having any patience. But I did have pizza today. So 3 out of 4 is not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Oh, this one's me. I'm the one who starts this one. So now
Correct.
that we are here today, um, we are talking about American Horror Story Asylum, episode 10, which means we are coming up on our next series. We have about a month left before we switch to something new. For
Mhm.
those of you listening, now is your time to tell me what you want to see, and what not.
Yeah.
And I pulled a few that we've been tossing around for ages, and I'll just mention them here so everyone can like I'm all over it. But we're looking at like maybe Twin Peaks, Penny Dreadful, Under the Dome, Room 104, Hannibal, Poltergeist, The Legacy, and The Strain. I have not seen any of them. You have seen
I
Twin Peaks.
I have seen Twin Peaks. Also, Dan has watched Penny Dreadful and Hannibal.
Dan
Right.
who? Dan who? Okay, Dan.
Right. He was
That's
like, "Oh, I've
fine.
seen that one." I go, "I'm sorry, you what?"
Good to
Okay.
know. Does he have thoughts and feelings about which one we should do next?
No. We were discussing it, Dan and my father and mother and I the other day, and basically, the strain freaks me out because my dad showed me the trailer and I wanted to die. And other than that, not the list that we have, I'm pretty good with all of it.
Yeah, I watched the first episode of all of these. The Strain actually was really good from the first episode I watched, but yeah, I don't know. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
We will see what it's going to be like, and I will start putting up polls around this general time frame when this comes out so
Hmm.
that you can all have an opinion and let me know
Yeah.
because we want to do what you want to. As we mentioned last episode, while we're making a call for suggestions, if there are things we're not doing that you want us to do, let us know.
Yeah.
If there's anything you hate, tell us. I don't know that we're going to stop doing it, but tell us anyways, and we'll think about it.
Yeah, depending on
But
what it is, we might maybe be willing to change.
right. So everything's a negotiation. Um, but yeah, so
Sure.
on that note, oh, and I have picked out the movie that we're going to watch at the end of American Horror Story, and I'm not telling you what it is. But I did pick it out already. So
I'm sure I'm gonna
we're
hate it.
on it. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But we'll see.
I haven't enjoyed really any of the movies.
No, you liked the one with Anna Joy Taylor.
Yeah, because I picked it.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I enjoyed Last Night in Soho. I also picked that one.
True. Fair. Fair.
No, and I didn't hate the Dakota Fanning hide and seek, that one. I didn't hate that one.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
I did hate most of the other ones.
Yeah. Well, some of them were like necessities, like The Exorcist and
Yeah.
like Psycho and like,
No, I loved Psycho. The Exorcist, I get it. I just also didn't like it.
I mean, I didn't love it. I didn't love
But
it,
like,
but
but
yeah.
like
Blair Witch.
the Blair Witch was, I hated it. The Exorcist Believer was the worst movie I've ever watched.
Oh, for sure.
I did not enjoy really the one that you loved, the 90s culty
Blair Witch.
urban legend. No, the urban legend one.
Oh,
I
yeah,
didn't
Urban
love
Legend was
that.
fine. Yeah. I definitely like
Yeah.
Blair Witch better, but I enjoyed Urban Legend for what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Well, that's we'll see what this other one's gonna be then. Um, in the near future, I'll tell you. But today, instead, we are discussing episode 10 of American Horror Story Asylum, and it is called appropriately Coat Hanger.
Jesus,
It
I
aired.
did not fucking read the title this week.
I
Holy,
told you the title last week, so you'd be prepared.
I didn't remember. I had no idea that this happened when I watched it. The fuck?
Intense. It aired 12/12/12, which is very fun. December 12th of 2012,
I
which is
remember
very
that
fun.
day.
What?
I said I feel like I remember that day. I have a lot of friends whose birthdays are on December 12th, so like I remember that
That makes
day,
sense.
but I don't know.
It was rated 8.2 out of 10. The number one song was still Diamonds. The number one movie, I think, is the same from last month. I meant to look, it's The Hobbit.
Yeah, that's the same.
Yeah. And then the where did my episode 9 notes go? I've lost them. They just disappeared. Huh. Okay, I don't know where my episode 9 notes are. Anyways, and the number one book is Cold Days by Jim Butcher. Um, I think I read one of his books and didn't love it, but it was a more recent one. So on this day, it was sad and
Oh,
random. Those are the things that are from this day. So I'm gonna start with like it's World Hoop Day, which is like that's fun, that's fine.
it's great.
It's known as Aaron Rodgers Day in Wisconsin because of course
Of
it
course it
is.
is.
It's Independence Day in Kenya, so like all these days. But also you'll remember it because it was the day of the memorial concert for Sandy Hook,
No.
and we watched that in my English class in college. So like I remember that day.
I was
And last
getting, I was going shopping, getting ready to go to the Dominican Republic. That's what I was doing that day.
mm, that is very different than all of these things that I've mentioned. And last but certainly not least, Pope Benedict the 16th sent his first tweet from his account. So it was a day of multiple things that occurred.
None of my thoughts belong in public.
That's fair. That's totally fair. The director is new. It is
Oh,
Jeremy Podeswa. He is known for everything, but the top four are Station 11, Game of Thrones, The Handmaid's Tale, and The Pacific.
oh, so
Um,
yeah, like
some other everything.
big.
Some other things you'll know him from. True Blood, 6 Feet Under, Carnival, Dexter, and Weeds.
Okay.
Literally everything.
Yeah,
Um, he has many more credits. These are just the ones that stuck out to me. Um,
great.
and his father was the only person of his immediate family who made it out of the Nazi German camps during World War II,
Yeah,
but he
that's
survived
amazing.
and yep, moved to Canada, as many people did. And that's where he was born, was in Canada. I did not write down which area of Canada, but it was
It's okay.
Canada. British Columbia, but I don't know. It just feels like what I read earlier.
Yeah.
Um, our writers, same Jennifer Salt, editors, Fabienne Bouville, or Bouville, who we've already spoken about quite a few times. And our guest star is Barbara Tarbuck, who plays Mother Superior. She is known for Walking Tall, Short Circuit, Curly Sue, and S. Darko, which we've talked about before
Talk
because
about,
you've seen and you
yep.
didn't like, right?
Mhm. Correct.
And she plays
It was
Agatha.
it was fine. It was like it was whatever.
um, she's the mother of Jennifer Lane Connolly, who is the producer of S. Darko. And
Mm,
then I have more notes about her. She was trained on a Fulbright grant to the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts. So
love
she'd
it.
started her career in theater. Some of her more notable productions were Playing and Death of a Salesman, um, Long Day's Journey into Night, Wonderful World, Six Characters in Search of an Author, Blue Window, Sidney Bechet Killed a Man, etc. There's like 15 listed here, so I just picked some of the bigger ones.
Hmm.
Um, and her favorite screen roles have been um, the aged mother on Cold Case in 2003,
Love it.
who comes to terms with her murdered son's homosexuality. That was one of her favorite roles. Dwayne Johnson's mother in Walking Tall, Kevin McKidd's mother on Journeyman, and last but certainly not least, the woman with 12 dogs on ER in 1994. So those were her favorite roles to play.
I'm obsessed.
And bless her heart. I love it so
I'm a
much.
little disappointed that that's who your guest was for this week because there was a character that was in this episode that we haven't talked about, but who also will not be back that I really wanted to
I
talk
know.
about.
But she's not so I looked her up because I thought it was Teddy from Grey's Anatomy.
Nope, it's
And it is
Erica
not.
Hahn. It's Erica Hahn. It's the doctor that turns Callie gay. Not she doesn't turn her gay, but she's the first one that
Yes.
Callie has a lesbian relationship with, who's the heart doctor who's fighting with Preston, and she's a fucking bitch.
Yeah, I hated her. I hate Teddy too. Maybe that's why I kept confusing them
Mm.
all. But yeah, was I Mother Superior. That's who I was gonna talk about. and then Mother Superior was ranked higher, so that's who we got. Um,
I'm
but where did she go? Because I swear I was like, I know who this is, and then I didn't know who she was. Then I was completely thrown off my game. But because it's not one of her like top credits, which is why I was really confused.
Brooke Smith.
Yeah.
Brooke Smith. Her top credits on IMDb are, oh yeah, no. It's
Like I
way
went
down.
down the list and didn't see it, and I was like, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, no. If you Google her, it comes up right after Silence of the Lambs, and I don't know if that's just because I'm obsessed with Grey's Anatomy, so like Google stalks me.
Yeah, it's
But
like way down here. She was in 25 episodes. It's not like it was a one-off.
yeah. Oh, but we talked about her recently anyway because she was the fucking sheriff in season 5 of Bates Motel, and I fucking talked about how much I
Oh,
hate.
right. We already
And
talked about her
I talked
then.
about how much I hated her then too.
Right, right, right. Yeah, so we don't need to talk about her because we already talked about her.
Which I forgot. I just was
I
like,
also
oh,
forgot.
literally, as soon as I saw her on screen, I go, fucking Erica Hahn. Every time I see her, when she was the sheriff, said the same thing.
I
I feel
know.
so bad because I know she has a career outside of her 25 episodes of Grey's Anatomy, but fuck if I care about it. Like
But there are so many
her number
one-offs.
one credit is a significant role in Silence of the
Right.
Lambs. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter to me. She was fucking Erica Hahn.
exactly. I mean, that's what people know her from. So fine. It's fine. Um, so speak of the devil, we start off at her office and it we learn that the office focuses on um curbing. I was like, what does that word say? Curbing compulsions. And so she helps people who are, drinking too much or if they like are doing just any compulsions that they have. And then we hear this man talking about his compulsions he's having. We don't see his face at this moment. He just keeps saying he's having impulses. And she's like, oh, no problem. He explains, like, when he's young, he's like, they told me it was bad. And she's like, totally normal. You have impulses. When was the first time you touched yourself? And he was like, what? Absolutely not. Turns out he was skinning and killing dead animals. And it is
At this point
also,
we've seen his face. Yeah.
yes, it is now, we've seen it's Dylan McDermott, who, of course, plays the dad and a therapist in season 1 of American Horror Story.
I
And
was so
so,
excited when it was him. I was like, oh my God,
yeah,
stop.
yeah. And so he's going through his compulsions and he talks about killing cats, skinning them, and all this. Now everyone's like against it, and he's like, it's just really hard to stop. Like, I want to stop. And he starts talking about like he didn't know who his parents were, and he thought like that was the answer. He was like, I'm gonna find out who my parents are because then I'll like understand myself better. Well,
That was a
turns out
fucking mistake.
because it turns out that Oliver Thredson is his father. And he is now living in Oliver's house because instead of learning about himself and getting over it, he just hardcore leans into it.
And it turns
And
out we see a quick flash that shows that he is the one who attacked Jenna Dewan, not Oliver, which thank God, because I really was hoping that there was no way that he was still alive. The math didn't math on that one. I mean, also terrible that he exists. But yeah, he's
I mean, he could still be alive. We don't have any answers yet on that, but
no,
he
we
wouldn't
don't,
be
but
that young.
yeah,
Yeah.
the math just wasn't mathing. But no, but so this fucking kid who's not a kid, but he's a kid is like, not only is he like, I'm so glad I know who my dad is. It makes so much sense that I wanted to kill animals my whole life. Now I'm going to, I don't know, be him.
Yeah. So,
Cool, 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 cool,
yeah.
cool, cool, cool.
And then we get the credits. Did you have any inkling that that was coming?
Not a single fucking one.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, the rest of what we see this episode,
Sure.
then I saw
Tracks.
that coming. But
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And so after the credits, we start back at Briarcliff. And Sister Mary has asked Lana to come in and see her. And she comes in and Lana's like, wow, you're doing your best, Sister Jude. I thought you were going to cane that person. Because she has very quickly stepped into this role.
Oh yeah, she
And,
is a fucking boss bitch, but
but not in a
not,
good way.
no.
And so she's like, chatting with her and she's like, we can't be having this. Like, I want to like look out for you, like girls in your condition. And she's like, what do you mean? And then she just keeps being like super cryptic. She's like, yeah, normally if it was like my grandmother, she would have given like the Drano situation.
Yeah,
And
she's like you drink a cup of Drano for every 2 weeks along you are. Ma'am,
yeah,
I understand that that would in fact kill whatever was inside you, but also it would kill whatever was inside you, like your esophagus.
right. Yeah, all of your organs. They're not
No,
doing great
no.
now.
Stomach acid and Drano don't sound like a good combination.
No, no. So she's going through this whole thing, and then she finally says it's because Lana's pregnant. And she's not only just pregnant, she's pregnant with Bloody Face's kid, which obviously because she hasn't slept with any other men, but
Right.
you know,
And she's like,
it's still a bummer.
I guess you're cured. You fucked a dude.
Yeah, yeah. And so then Sister Mary's like, yeah, it's fine. She's like, well, I need to get rid of it. She's like, no, no, no. You have to keep this baby. This is your baby, and you have to keep it. And she's of course losing her mind. And
She's
then
like, I mean, keep it as in you're going to have it and then we're going to
right
send it to an orphanage. You don't get
away.
to keep
Yeah,
it, but like also, who do you think you are?
yeah,
This is a Catholic institution.
right. And led by the devil. It's fine. And then
So fucking weird.
I know, isn't it? And then Sister Mary tells her after she tells her to keep it, Lana gets up to leave and she's clearly like out of it. And as soon as
Yeah.
she makes like 3 steps, she just passes out on the floor.
Which to
And
be fair, I don't I don't blame her.
no, 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 not at all. She lasted longer than I would have. And handled it a lot better than I would have. So, there's that.
Yeah.
So then we go to Sister Jude, who is waking up and everything's kind of blurry. And we see as we come out of it that Monsignor Timothy is standing over her and she is strapped to a bed. And we learn that she had been in an accident, that they brought her to Briarcliff after the accident, and that everyone testified to her mental instability. We had Santa, Arden, and Mary all said that Jude's the one that killed Frank. Oh, she was already in. Sorry, she was in Briarcliff. They just
Yeah.
took her in as a Briarcliff patient. I see your
Yeah.
face. I said it, strange. She was in
Yeah.
the institute from whenever Grace got shot. So like
Yes.
last episode.
She had apparently locked herself up in her thing, attacked Frank, or killed Frank, and then also attacked Santa.
Yeah, they said that she held Santa hostage in her office. And then
Which, like,
Mother
fuck, I really wanted him to be dead.
I know. What a bummer. Um, and then Mother Superior and Monsignor also testified that she had kind of started losing it. And they were
Mhm.
like, yeah, she came to us and said Arden was a Nazi. She's been like, thinks everything's a conspiracy now. And like, yeah, I get it, I guess. But also
Yeah.
like she wasn't wrong or lying.
Right.
But I get that some of it sounds a little crazy. And
I mean, but
Timothy's
like,
just like,
I feel like real life is crazier than like fiction. Like, I don't give anyone
mhm,
create credit for being creative enough to come up with that shit. Like, if you're telling me that that's what happened to you and it's that fucking wild,
right.
either you do drugs
Hmm.
or that's what happened. Like,
Yeah.
I don't trust you to be creative enough.
Yeah. Well, maybe they also thought she was doing drugs since she was back on the drinking again. And you never know. But
Fair.
also like everyone wanted her to get locked up so that their secrets didn't come out. I don't know
Well,
if
yeah, because
Mother
everybody
Superior has a
fucking
secret
sucks.
or if
No,
she's just
I
concerned.
think Mother Superior is just genuinely concerned because that's a
Yeah.
lot of crazy shit to say is happening. The other four are all fucking pieces of shit.
Yeah. They all are in it for themselves. And so Santa's talking to them and he says he's now learned he learned that he was responsible for his murders. He was like, I didn't know it at the time. He was like, but I've come to peace with it. And now all of those souls are up in heaven. And I was like, you have lost your mind.
This
And
that whole redemption arc nonsense
yeah,
was a lot.
yeah, he says he's on a path to redemption now and he wants to be forgiven and forgive others. And he's going to turn his life around. And
Sure.
then Timothy goes back to Sister Jude and strips her of her nunhood. What do you call that? Her nunness name?
Vocation.
Vocation. Strips her of her vocation. And so that's sad. That's sad for her. And then we go to the kitchen, as we do. And Lana is making bread again. And she notices a man come through with like dry cleaning or like some like clothing stuff. And she watches as he like just leaves the clothes rack there. So we go back to Timothy and they're going through Jude's stuff and he finds Jude's lingerie, which we already knew about, but now
Yeah.
he also knows about whether he did or not before. I'm still not convinced he doesn't know more than he lets
Yeah.
on. But Sister Mary walks in and says she's been packing up things as well to like send out to the poor because that's what you do. And she says that she was shocked by a lot of things she found as well, which like lies. So then she starts telling him that she heard he wanted to be the Pope. And he like slightly panics for a second. And he's like, that was all in confidence. She's like, no, 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 it's fine. She's like, I know you want to
She's
be
like,
the
I think
Pope.
it's a great idea.
Yeah. And she's like, so I'm going to help you now. Like, since Sister Jude is no longer a nun and she's out of the picture, I will step in and help you become the Pope and I will follow you in this journey. And I'm like, what's worse than having a devil run a Catholic asylum? Having a nun that's the devil run all of the Catholics in the world.
Yeah.
So we don't really want the devil in the Vatican. That doesn't sound ideal. Um,
Oh, and then
so
we don't have Marcus and Tomas to help us this time.
exactly. So yeah, so she's basically just saying that she just wants to take Jude's place. That she's good to move on with this plan and take over everything. Um, and we have another brief moment with Lana where she is being sent back to her room. It's a thunder because she's saying she needs to go lie down. It's a thunderstorm, and she pulls out the coat hanger that she took from this clothes rack. So, like, we all know where this is
Yeah.
going at this point, but they sure
Yeah.
like to drag it out in this episode.
They
Um,
do.
it's a long time coming by the end. So we go to Jude, and she is just having a fit. Like the nuns are not being friendly to her at all because now they think that she's this crazy lunatic who murdered Frank.
Yeah.
And so like I would also be upset with her
And
if I
like
thought she
because
murdered Frank.
Frank is like the number two best person on the show after Kit.
Right. 100%. 100%. And so everyone's obviously upset. So then Timothy comes in with her to visit her and he's like, I really wanted to bring you a visitor. She's like, I'm up for it, whatever. And he comes with Santa, whose real name is Lee, but whatever. He's
Yeah.
Santa.
Yeah.
And so he walks up to her in his well-renowned redemption glory, and he tells her that he forgives her. And we get flashbacks to all of these times that she's like tied him down to the bed and has like locked him up and like some of their conversations they've had. And then we come back to present day and he kisses her on the forehead before he leaves. And if I was Jude,
I don't know if my eyes could roll hard enough for this.
oh my God, I literally like that probably was Jude's worst moment of her entire life. If I had to guess, like that would be mine.
I mean, now that she knows that she didn't murder a child, yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. Now that we know we didn't murder a child. Um, so then we go to our fave, who we haven't seen in a minute. And it's Kit. and we learned he's been like unplugging his morphine. I assume it's morphine. I don't know what they had in the like whatever time this is,
Yeah,
but
something
60s, but I assume it's morphine, something similar.
something in the
And
morphine family.
yeah. And so he's unplugging it so he can pretend like he's still drugged when people come in. But it's okay because it's Lana that walks in.
Yeah.
And she just immediately goes off and she's like, we have to kill Oliver. And he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We
He's
already
like,
talked
I've
about
already
this.
explained to you why that is the
Yeah.
worst idea.
Yeah. And she's like, no, we're figuring it out. We'll do something else. It'll all be fine. And we have to kill him. And Ken's like, no, absolutely not. I'm not going to jail because you want to kill this guy and I don't have an alibi now.
Right.
So then we have a brief flash of Arden. There's like really weird brief this episode. So I know we have a brand new director. Speaking of
Yeah.
direction, we have a brand new director. And so this episode, like while the storyline follows, because it's all the same writers, it's kind of strange how they shoot the scenes. Like,
Felt myself kind of like dissociating during it more than I usually do because I didn't feel like they showed any one scene for long enough for me to invest myself in it. And it was like there was three very distinct stories happening, but they cut back and forth so much that I was
yeah.
struggling to like stay with it. Like
Yeah, and it's like
I'll be honest, the first scene where she finds the coat hanger in the laundry, never saw that scene. I didn't
yeah.
see it.
So I rewound that scene 3 times because I didn't realize she was looking at the hangers on the rack. I thought she was looking at the man who brought the hangers in, and I was trying to figure out who he was. So I rewound that scene 3 times before I even saw it. And the one where she pulls out the coat hanger, it's because like nothing really like happened. She's just acting like she needs to like lie down, and then she pulls this
Yeah.
coat hanger out of her dress. Like so, and it's so strange because this man is so like he's probably the most like well-known director we've had. Like, I mean, I didn't know his name, but based on his works, he's the one who's done some of the biggest works of all
Biggest,
time, other
yeah.
than like, Hitchcock or something. And modern stuff. I mean, all of the Brian, what's his name? Who did our show?
Brand Fuller.
Yeah, all the Brian Fuller shows, it seems, other than the one we watched. But he did those, he did the Game of Thrones, True Blood, like we get all of
Like
this from
those
this
are,
one
yeah, like
director.
those are not
Right.
small projects.
But then this episode, it was like, how do you do all of these things and this one feels so disconnected? Like, it was a little bit more difficult to stay on
Yeah.
task with. But and also with this, and I get like, and maybe it's because he does a lot of like other horror stuff where it's different than American Horror Story. Because if you're shooting like
Yeah.
say like a poltergeist film, like the scene with Arden is like your stereotypical scene you throw in to like where they're searching or like there's a ghost or there's like someone trying to kill you in the house. Like that's the scene you throw in there.
Right. And I think
And
when you're doing like traditional, like, I mean, not traditional, but when you're doing like visual based jump scare, like monster horror,
mhm,
there is kind of a necessity to do a lot of cutting because
yeah,
the unseen is the scary. And there is some of that in here, and the scenes where that was the intention, which we haven't gotten to yet, but the scenes where
right.
that is what is happening, so well done.
Amazing. Yeah.
The drama parts of it just didn't fit to me. Like
Yeah.
I felt like the and I don't even know, I mean, obviously it is director, but I also think like editing and cinematography, like obviously they
Yeah.
follow what the director wants, but it felt like the angle they were coming at it from didn't match
Hmm.
the angle I was viewing it from. Like our points of view were not lining up, and so it made it hard for me to figure it
Yeah.
out.
I think that's one of the things that's like so strong about American Horror Story too is that like it doesn't have these typical like it doesn't rely on the big scandalous scenes, the big like
Yeah.
what's the word I'm looking gratuitous scenes
Yeah.
like a Game of Thrones and True
Except
Blood
for
does.
Yeah, except for that fucking episode
Yeah.
7, Dark Cousin. Fuck that. I'm still mad
Yeah.
about it because the story could have
No,
been
that was a
so
different
good.
no, that was a regular director, I think, that was on that
Yeah,
one.
that episode could
Um,
have been so good if it weren't just
yeah.
bleeding everywhere.
Yeah, but yeah, like but like as a rule, American Horror Story does not rely on the
Right.
like gratuitous of everything. They rely on the true innate like human horror
Yeah, for sure.
elements more than a lot of the supernatural, which is why maybe this director didn't align so well. But yeah, so Arden's looking for the alien in the tunnels, obviously. And then we
Obviously.
go back to Lana, and she goes to see Oliver, and he's still tied up in the closet, and she shows him the paper that says she's pregnant. And instead of being like, oh my God, he's like, I'm going to be a father. And she's like, what? No, this is
She's
not what
like,
I'm here for.
she's
You're
like,
not ever going to be
no.
a father.
She's like, you suck. You will not. That was not that. No,
Yeah.
no.
So she's telling him all this, and then she pulls out the coat hanger. And because I haven't seen this episode in a while, I thought she was about to do it right then. And I was like, what a like petty way to do it. But also, like, out of all the torture he gave her, like, what a psychological torture for him. Like, that's wild. But she does it
Yeah.
so that he'll start talking. And he keeps telling her that Kit Walker's going to take the fall. He can change. He's going to be the best dad. And I was like, there's 0% chance of anything you're saying happening. I mean, Kit Walker may end up taking the fall, but like otherwise, everything else is not possible.
Yeah,
That is the only
no.
thing that might could happen. Um,
No, you being a good father. No, 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 no.
so she starts asking about the women he's killed, and we start with Donna Burton, who's the librarian. We go to the secretary at his dentist's office, and then we go to Wendy. And she's like, well, what about Wendy? All these other reasons for all these other people. And he says that he killed Wendy because she never loved Lana and she locked her away. And in a twisted sense of romance, that does seem nice, even though we know he's a
The
psychopath.
weird thing is that he like genuinely loves her in a way,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it's
like,
a not a good thing. It's a very
yeah.
toxic
It's
relationship.
it's because he doesn't have the actual
Mhm.
capacity to love, but like what he does feel he feels towards her, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, but he just doesn't understand what it all means because he never had it. And
Yeah. Yeah,
so
that's what I'm trying to say. He like
yeah,
doesn't know what love is.
right. And so at this moment, we see behind the curtains, and it turns out that Kid has been recording the confession the whole time. We hear him playing it back so that we know what, actually worked. And Lana tells him that everything is too late, anyways, because she killed the baby last night, and we get unnecessary descriptions. But she
Yeah.
tells him that she killed the baby last night. It's too late. He's done. Kid's gonna be free. He's going to jail. And so then we pop over to Kid, who's now hanging out with Arden, and he hides the tape. And just in time as Arden walks in, and Arden says that he wants to talk to him. And so they're sitting in Arden's office, and he's giving Kid a cigarette and some scotch, like they're old buddies.
Yeah.
And
As if that makes any fucking sense.
right, so then Arden starts telling him that he's seen what Kit has seen, and Kit realizes he's not crazy. And he says that the aliens took Grace. He says, I had her in the tunnels and they took her. He's like, so I know that these things are real. So then he starts explaining that Kit is their science experiment. And he's
Yeah.
like, so he's like, what is a scientist gonna do but protect his like study, his
Yeah.
what's the word I'm looking for? Like his study object, I can't think what it's called. But
Test subject.
yeah, his test subject at all
Yeah.
costs. So he's like, so here's the solution. I'm going to almost kill you, and they're going to come rescue you, and that's how we're going to see them again. And Kit, of course, is a little nervous, and he's
He's
like, you want to
he's
kill me? And he's like surface level nervous, not like
yeah, he's not as nervous
super.
as he probably should be, but also
Yeah,
he fully 100% is on board and believes that Arden knows what he's talking about and that it
yeah.
is possible that Grace and Elma are both still alive. And I will say, okay, I was very happy in this moment because while I'm happy for him having Grace or whatever, when he finds out that it's possible that the women are alive because of him impregnating them because of this science experiment, he doesn't get excited about the thought of seeing Grace again,
Hmm.
he gets so excited about the thought of seeing Elma again. And that was like,
Yeah.
for me, I was like, everything is okay now because like it's not, but it is because I was
Yeah.
just so afraid that they were gonna jump so heavy into that Grace storyline that like he was gonna like suddenly like not give a shit about Elma anymore, and I was gonna be so mad about it.
Yeah, and you had brought that up last week or the week before how upset you were about them focusing so hard on him like falling in love with Grace now and like how do you forget someone? And it was like sweet and tragic when he was like, I'd almost forgotten her. And it's like that's
Yeah.
so sad.
And
But
like
then
I
yeah,
understand being like emotionally vulnerable, fully believing your wife is dead and like not knowing what to do and then like being scared and like kind of just almost he was almost manipulated by Grace more than anything because he everything was wrong in his life
yeah,
and he just like she showed him compassion which no one else had done and he fully believed Elmo was dead. But now that there's some glimpse of them both still being alive and like Grace even told him that Elmo was alive, I'm glad that they didn't just like drop how
twist it.
much
Yeah.
he clearly felt for
Hmm.
Alma. Because like he fucking married a black woman in the 60s and hid her away to protect her. Like he went through so much shit to be with her. He can't just forget about her. I was about to
Yeah.
like lose my mind over the story on that part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So they absolutely did that correctly. And I'm
Yeah.
thrilled because that is it makes it a very sweet story. And it just
Yeah.
makes you love Kit even more.
I know.
Um, so we go back to Lana, and so she's pretending to like clock out of the kitchen whenever she's done with her shift and goes and hides. And as soon as they turn off all the lights, she grabs a knife and goes to turn around, but the orderly is there. One of the orderlies is there and catches her and takes the knife away.
Yeah.
No punishment, just sends her to her room. I like the way that this place operates.
It's so
That is
incorrect.
very mild. Although maybe it's because she's pregnant and they're like the baby can't die. And so like, electrotherapy might probably isn't good for the baby. I'm not sure. Never been in either of these situations, but like that would be my guess.
What,
Caning, not great for a
an
baby.
insane asylum or pregnant? Are those the two situations you're talking about?
Yes, yes. Those are
Oh,
the two I
okay.
have not been in. Yeah.
Great. Cool, cool,
So
cool.
thank God for both. Um, but so she's just sent back to her room. So we go back to Santa, who is in the chapel praying or something. And he is talking to Timothy and he says he was never given a real shot at redemption. He says he was just thrown in here and Jude just immediately threw him, like locked him away, and he was never given a chance to kind of like redeem himself. And Timothy's like, yeah, he was like, I hear that. He's like, I want everyone to be given a chance. Like, everyone should have a fair shot. And so he's kind of telling this, and we're seeing him go through the process of baptizing Santa while they're talking in the chapel. And it's kind of like a back and forth scene. And then when he goes to baptizing him, he comes back up. Santa goes to hug him, and instead just takes his head and starts drowning him. So
Saw that coming a million miles away.
yeah, it was like I don't know if they thought they were fooling people when they wrote this episode,
Every time
but
he
there
said
was
something that was like legitimately like and earnestly like I want to be forgiven, I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like I didn't
yeah.
believe anything he said.
Oh no, I never believed him. Um, but I assume they wanted us to believe him at some point.
Yeah.
So we go back to Lana, and so she has a nurse take her to a room to lie down, and she pulls out the wire hanger that was buried in her bed, and she
Yeah.
gets it all sharpened up and like folded correctly,
And
and then
she's so
practices
ready.
using it as a weapon to stab her pillow. And obviously she wants to use it to kill Oliver. So we go to the closet, which is a little nerve-wracking because we're like, if she kills Oliver, Kit's dead. Those are our only options. And she goes
Well, they
in.
have the tape.
Yeah, but if anybody finds the tape or, there's like,
Yeah.
it's still not set
Oh no,
with
no,
this
no. It's
guy
not.
now alive. So
It's not.
But alas, she goes into the closet to kill him, and he's gone. Either he's released himself or someone else has released him from the ropes that were tied around him. So she
Gotta love
runs out
it.
of the room and she starts like making her way through the halls, just trying to look for him and find him when she runs into Sister Mary. And she tells her she knows that Mary let him out. She's like, I know you did this. I know you've let him free. And Mary's like, oh, says something about the baby. And she's like, no, she's not there anymore. And she puts her hand on Lana's stomach and we hear a heartbeat. And she says, you know what else I know? It's a boy. Dun, dun, dun. And what a scene. What a tragic scene. Because that's it just it's one of those scenes where it's like you feel like all hope is lost. Like
Yeah.
it's like nothing
Yeah.
good has come out of the
Nothing
last
good
like
will
3
ever
minutes.
happen.
Yeah.
Nothing good will ever happen again.
And
Um,
we jump to the future for a moment. And the next client walks in and she's talking about her compulsion for eating like chicken and kind of making a joke out of it. And when she walks in, Dr. Gardner is sitting in her seat and won't turn around. And she goes turn around and she is dead and covered in blood. So we all know there. Um, so then we go back to the common area at Briarcliff, and Lana is smoking a cigarette. And I feel like they've been given a lot more cigarettes this episode than they had before. And I feel like they usually don't have them. They're not just like easy access for everyone, even though it's the 60s. But everyone's allowed cigarettes today, it seems.
yeah.
So, and at this moment, Jude comes in,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone's staring at her, obviously. And
Obviously.
she just is run down. And she goes and sits down beside Lana. And Lana says, what did they do to you? And she's like, nothing I didn't do to you. And she tells her to give her a cigarette. And she starts apologizing to Lana and says she's going to make it up to her. She's going to make it right. And they're going to get everything figured out. And Lana's like, I don't know if I'll ever forgive you, blah, 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 blah. They have this back and forth. And Jude gets up, goes over to the vinyl. She turns it off by like stopping it. And then she just takes out and breaks it. And there's like some cheers from the people and some groans and moaning.
And
And it's just
and
like,
pandemonium, because some of these people,
yeah.
like that tune is the only thing that kept their brainwaves at the right functioning
Yep.
frequency.
So now we're about to have chaos ensue. So we go to Arden and Kit, and this is we have Kit lying down or sitting on the table getting ready for his procedure, and Arden starts telling him how it's gonna go. He's
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna get this medicine and pump it directly into your heart, and in 2 to 4 minutes you're going to die. And then he's like, so then you're gonna bring me out later, and he's like, it's fine. He was like, once I put this in, I will start counting. And if after 2 minutes nothing has happened, I will pump your heart with these other two things and then beat your heart with my hand. And then you'll be back to life. Totally fine. But they are both nervous. And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is like shot in the dark. Like
Yeah.
theoretically,
Because
sure.
Kit doesn't want to die, and Arden actually legitimately doesn't want him to die either, and he's not used to trying to
Yeah.
kill someone with the intention of them not
Not
dying.
dying. Right, right. So Kit starts praying, and Arden's like, what are you saying? He's like, it's the only prayer I know, just in case. And it's the Lord's Prayer. And then he stabs him directly in the heart, and it looks very painful. And
Yep.
then his heart stops, and Arden looks at his watch to start the timer. And before the 2 minutes is up, the lights start flickering, and then it just starts getting more intense and more intense. And so then Arden is going down the hall to find the aliens and find where they're coming from. But
And
instead,
this
he opens
this this is the scene that I said was that I was thinking about
really
when I was
well
talking about
done.
the stuff, that it was actually really well done because it
Mm-hmm.
was more like genuine horror, like the flashing lights and the aliens and the seeing things but not really seeing things, and the way Arden was silhouetted and you really didn't know if you were rooting for him to get attacked or not. Like
Right.
that
Yeah.
that this that was the probably the best well done like horror scene.
for sure. And it was like that was one of the good things about this episode as a whole too was like specifically with Arden is you couldn't decide you didn't want him to die because he did seem to want to do some good things. Like he
Right.
wants to promote science now in the right way. But
Which
like
I'm
I mean I
still
don't like
very,
him,
no, I'm still
but
very torn on that. I'm still very confused on because he still sucks.
right, he still sucks for
But
sure.
also, like, as long as his kit's life is in his hands, I need to root for him to succeed.
Right, right. So sorry. So he goes down, opens up one of the cells, assuming he's gonna find aliens. And instead, we have Pepper who turns around and starts saying she's about to give birth. We need these things. And then we pan over and it's super pregnant Grace who's on the
Also,
floor.
Pepper no longer has a speech impediment.
Yes, she is very able and she is now nursing Grace and says to get a doctor in there and she's going to nurse Grace to health with the baby once the baby is born. Um whole new world, whole new world. Um and then we pan over again and we have a janitor going to clean the chapel and he walks in and looks up and we see Timothy hung from a cross just like Jesus. And then the janitor screams and runs away. And the angel of death is back. And he just says, please help me. And that is the end of the episode.
Bonkers.
So bonkers. It was kind of a wild episode. It was kind
It
of a wild
was.
episode. Um, I do have a couple of things for you. Um, so Dr. Gardner, Brooke Smith, who becomes a victim of the man who likes to skin women alive, she played the victim also in Silence of the Lambs, which of course is paid homage to throughout this season. Um, when Sister Mary Eunice says the bad news is the rabbit died, I did not know this, but she's referring to an early form of pregnancy test known as the rabbit test, or the Asham-Zondek test, which was developed in 27. And it originally was performed on mice, which involved injecting a woman's urine into a mouse or a rabbit and later observing the changes in the animal's reproductive organs during its autopsy. While all animals involved in the testing would need to be killed in order for the examination, the misconception that the animal would only die if injected with a pregnant woman's urine led to the usage of the phrase the rabbit died as a euphemism for a positive pregnancy test. Have you ever heard of that?
I have never heard of that.
I have never heard of that either. I was reading these, like the trivia, and I was like, what a wild thing. That is so insane. Um, 20s, man. Cocaine and killing rabbits. What a time to be alive.
Or dead.
Or dead. Those, yeah, that was probably more likely. Um, Also, when Monsignor baptizes Lee in the church, um, they are in the big bathtub. He baptizes him by immersion. The Roman Catholic Church does not baptize by immersion, so this was a mistake. Only Baptist and other evangelical Protestant churches do.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. That is true. I was going to comment on that even if it hadn't been trivia.
yeah.
So, not
Um,
a thing that would be possible.
no. But in the same vein, Joseph Fiennes, though portraying a Catholic priest, crosses himself like an Orthodox priest when he's in the chapel with Ian McShane. So we didn't do very good at following our Catholicism this episode.
I'm interested what that means.
I think it's backwards. I saw a note somewhere else. I think it's just like instead of doing it like this, I think it was like maybe you do it different. Like it's backwards somehow.
I'm just sorry. One of my students' parents, who's also on the school board, who's like the parent I communicate with the most, is an Orthodox priest. And
Hmm.
so I'm like imagining him doing it.
Yeah, it's right to left instead of left to right, which just feels weird.
And it's also they do a weird thing with their fingers.
Oh, is that only the Orthodox? I feel like I've seen
Yeah.
that in the other as well.
That doesn't even make
Yeah.
sense. That it feels so
Doesn't it
icky.
feel weird?
If that just doesn't
Yeah.
see, but
I'm looking to see if there's a reason why.
I that's what I want to know because so in
They do it with three fingers because the signing is done together with the invocation of the Trinity.
yeah.
Um,
Why do they go right to left?
I think it's from the Bible, maybe, because it has it in quotes. This is how it's done from above to below and from right to left, because Christ ascended from the heavens to the earth. So maybe it's a Bible verse.
Maybe.
Hmm.
Um,
They say that, okay, so they say the Father going, the way that his priest explained to this guy on Reddit, the Father sending down the Son, so from your head to your like
oh,
stomach,
no, no, no.
to the
Okay,
right shoulder, to the right hand
it's
of the priest, then to the left, showing he sends spirit to the heart of the believer.
yeah.
This makes
So
sense.
it's the Orthodox Church says, "I love the Lord with all my mind, all my soul, all my strength, and all my heart."
Ah, that makes
Whereas in
sense.
the Catholic Church, they say, "From the heavens to the earth, to others, and then yourself." And that's why you go opposite and then towards yourself.
Mm, there we go. Now we know. Now
Yeah.
we know. We learn something every day. Um,
Now I'm going to be
but yeah,
watching. Now I'm going to be watching Father Jason every time he does that, just to see if
report
I'm
back.
like insane. Yeah. Next week I will have a
Yes.
report for you on
Thank you.
the
In
Orthodox
advance.
sign of the cross.
In the meantime, who do you want to punch in the face?
That is really tricky because this episode was very odd.
I know.
Um, but I think, I mean, the easy cop out answer is Bloody Face's kid.
Sure, yeah. Um,
I think I'm
if you're
gonna,
gonna
yeah, I think I'm
go
gonna have
with
to go with
him,
that one. There's only one other one that I might pick, depending on what you're about to say.
I think I'm gonna have to go with I think I'm gonna have to go with Santa.
That was the other one I was gonna go for if you didn't pick
It's
it.
it is such a weird episode though. Like I don't know. There's no way to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so on the other side, who is your MVP?
Also, what the fuck? But it?
That's who I would pick too. Yeah, because he's trying his best, staying true to Alma, and
I mean, if in order to have just two different ones, the only other one that I could potentially pick is Jude for like trying to make up for her
yeah,
past. But
yeah, that's who I would pick second as well. So just because there's really no one else, really no other
right,
options. So
none.
that's all we have. So next week, we just have a lot of answers to this week, a lot of follow-ups.
Oh, that's good. I
We
was really
address a lot of the
worried.
things that happened in this episode.
I was really worried we were gonna like, introduce a whole nother new character and then pretend that all this shit didn't happen.
Yeah, I don't think there's any new characters, but I cannot confirm, but I can confirm that almost everything we mentioned in this episode gets addressed in the next episode.
Oh, good, good, good,
So
good.
that'll be a good follow-up.
Great.
Um, in the
Need one of
meantime,
those.
if you want to reach out to us with your thoughts, feelings, questions, and concerns, you can email us deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can find us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can find me at CECloud13.
And you can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And we will see you on Sunday for our kidnapping sci-fi Sunday.
Bye.
Bye.